Please welcome to the stage Robert Weinstein.
So about 3.5 years ago, I'm walking down the street in downtown Brooklyn, and I'm on my way to the movie theater. And I don't remember which movie I was going to see because the movie did not matter one bit. What I was really interested in was the very large tub of popcorn. It was my day off, and I had a ritual, and that ritual was I would go to the movies, I would get this big tub of popcorn, I would slather it with butter, I would sit down, I would eat it all. Before the movie started, I would get a tremendous stomach ache and watch the movie in pain. And then I would go home and sit on my couch, and I would text with my wife, Emily, and tell her complain about how much pain I was in. And then I told her I would never do this again, and Emily always humored the lie because normally Emily was awesome. So I'm about to go into the movie theater and my phone rings and I look down and it's Emily and I brace myself to be annoyed. Now, Emily is 25 weeks pregnant. And up to this point, every time she called me, I was annoyed. Now I know it's not nice to be annoyed with your 25-week pregnant wife, so I'm going to provide you some context for my particular brand of awfulness. So I loved Emily more than anything. Emily and I met online, which was kind of a feat in itself because my OkCupid profile was terrible. It consisted of one photo that was 2 years old and blurry, and in the section, "Tell me about yourself," I had said, "We should like each other." I was very defensive. Emily and I, the reason that Emily reached out to me, though, was because I said that my favorite TV show was a comedy from the 70s called Soap. Yes. And it was the easiest relationship I had ever been in. Emily and I made out on our first date. We spent hours together putting together Lego sets like cars and Ghostbuster mobiles and the Death Star. We gave personalities to a stuffed penguin and an elephant bookmark and spent hours in conversation between the two. And Emily laughed when I proposed to her because the reason I proposed to her, I did it a little bit earlier than I wanted to because I was terrified that she was going to be hit by a bus before I got the chance to tell her that I wanted to marry her. And she said yes, even though the words, "Will you marry me," never escaped my mouth. And when it came to kids, I never felt one way or the other about kids. I always wanted to find the person that I was going to be with, and then I figured whatever happened after that we could deal with. And since Emily and I were in our 40s, I figured that there was a good possibility that we'd have problems having kids. So I felt that we were on solid ground. But Emily and I conceived, and we conceived together, which was fun, because conceiving can be very fun. And at week 4, Emily became nauseous, and for the next 21 weeks, she remained nauseous 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She had trouble eating, and she had trouble sleeping. She couldn't stand the smell of anything, and she constantly complained. And I did not know how to deal with the complaining. And I felt bad because I wanted to be supportive, but I also wanted to be a partner, and at this point, I was no longer a partner. I was an errand boy and a sounding board, and I didn't feel like we were on equal footing anymore, and I didn't understand how our relationship was supposed to proceed. So when I got the phone call from Emily, I was prepared. When I was going to the movies, I needed the tub of popcorn. I needed the time to myself so that I could recalibrate my sense of empathy and just remember that I loved Emily. So when Emily called, I picked up, and she complained, and I became annoyed. She said she had this gas bubble underneath her abdomen, and she was in pain, and she was going to go home from work. And she said that she knew it was my day off, but could I please get her a popsicle and bring it to her at home? And I did not want to. I wanted to tell her that there was a bodega on the corner of the subway and she should pick it up herself, but I didn't tell her that because I remembered that I loved her. So I brought her the popsicle and gave it to her, and of course it didn't help because popsicles are not medicine. And I sat down on the couch and I was about to make myself some popcorn and eat and watch a movie when Emily came in and said, "I am in so much pain, I'm going to the hospital. I know it's your day off, but you don't have to go." And I did not want to. But I still had a couple drops of love left and empathy left, so I went. Now the good news is that when you go to the hospital and your wife announces that she's pregnant, you get a room right away, which was great because I was like, okay, they're gonna find the gas bubble and then we're gonna get to go home and have the day off that we were supposed to have. But then Tweedledee and Tweedledum walked in. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are two interns who were unhelpful in a variety of ways, and they were unhelpful badly. They came in and they asked Emily a bunch of questions. They whispered to each other. They scribbled stuff on their clipboards, and they didn't tell us anything. And they did this. They asked her the same set of questions 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I was so upset. I wanted to scream at them, "Just find the damn bubble so that I can go home." But then Tweedledee and Tweedledum brought their supervisor in, who had the wherewithal to look between Emily's legs, press on her abdomen, stand up, and announce, "Your wife is 3 centimeters dilated. She's going to have this baby today." So they rush us to the emergency room, and I am astonished by how many people are there. So I am holding one of Emily's hands. There's a nurse holding another of Emily's hands. There's 1 doctor each on each of Emily's legs. In between, facing Emily's vagina, are 3 doctors who are sort of crouched like minor league baseball catchers. Off to the side is another set of doctors with a machine I've never seen before. And then back behind the crouching doctors are in bleacher-like, in 3 different rows, or 12 or 13 different doctors, because this is a teaching hospital, and word got out that there was a micropreemie being born, so they wanted to see it happen. So the contractions started, and I'm standing around, and I have no idea what to do. And everyone's telling Emily to push, and she pushes, and she pushes, and nothing happens. And I'm feeling more useless, and I'm annoyed because I want to go home, and I want to help Emily, and I don't know how to do it. But then the contractions come again, and I notice the nurse on Emily's other hand is saying push and push, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had these classes yet. I don't know what to do, but so maybe I should do that. So I begin to tell her to push and push, and nothing happens. And this grows in intensity to where everyone's yelling at her to push and push, and even the bleacher bums behind the doctors are kind of scrunching, going, just push, and nothing is happening, and I don't know what to do. And during a lull in the action, the nurse holding Emily's other hand leans over and whispers and says softly to her, "You know what? If you just relax your legs, it might help." And Emily did that. And this gray and purple thing shoots out from between Emily's legs. And she is 1 pound, 15 ounces, and 14 inches long. And that was Josie. So the doctor looks at her and says she's not breathing. And so he quickly has me cut the umbilical cord. And the doctors over to the right swoop in with this. They take Josie, they stuff a tube down her throat, they connect her to the machine, and they whisk her off. And everyone immediately disappears, except for Emily and I, and the nurse who is holding Emily's hand, who is left behind to clean up the debris, the afterbirth, the placenta, so that it could be analyzed so we could figure out why Josie was born so early. Now, about 2 hours later, Emily and I are in her room, and we're laughing. It's nice, it's comfortable, we're having a lovely time. And Emily told me that when Josie came out, it was like her body changed back to what it was before she was born. And it was just this really lovely, I was so happy to be with her, and it felt like we were before the pregnancy. And this nurse came in to check up on her, and Emily was doing fine. And then she turned to me and said, "Sir, visiting hours are over. You have to go home." And Emily looked at me like she was afraid. And the seriousness of what happened kicked me in the throat. And I wanted to burst into tears. Now, Josie was in a room in the hospital, and she might die. And it occurred to me that if Josie did die, it was going to change us. It was going to change Emily, it was going to change me, and it was going to change our relationship. And I didn't know what would become of us. And it occurred to me that there was a chance that I would lose Emily. And for the first time all day, I was afraid. So I said to the nurse, look, Emily and I didn't know this was going to happen when we woke up this morning. And we're freaking out, and we want to be together. So if you could find it in your heart to let me stay the night, we would really appreciate it. And she did. So I got to hold Emily's hand and fall asleep next to her on this orange window seat that was next to the hospital bed. And I got to watch her fall asleep. And popcorn or no, I didn't want to be anywhere that Emily wasn't. Thank you.